Hello everyone and welcome to this podcast, Life, Leadership and Lemons, a conversation with Jamie Corcoran about making the most of what you have and learning to laugh along the way.
So hey everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Life, Leadership and Lemons. You'll notice that this week, for the first time since we started this podcast, we're missing our compadre Samuel. That's because he and his wife Sarah had a beautiful baby girl, Isabella, last week. Both are doing well, really healthy, thank God for that. And so this week and next week we're going to do something different. Today on the podcast I have a gentleman by the name of Colin Kelly. Most of you won't know this, but I'm actually related to said gentleman. He is my uncle. He is my mother's brother, and many years ago jumped on a boat and sailed across to the UK to start a life, and since then has had an amazing journey, married, kids, now grandkids, business owner. Colin's going to tell us a little bit more about that in a second. But I want to encourage you, especially those of you who are watching this week, and maybe you have a sense somewhere, maybe your purpose is more entrepreneurial, maybe your passion is more for industry or business. You feel like as you look forward to your future, there's something in you that kind of wants to push against the boundaries and create something new. I want to really encourage you this week to lean in, because there's going to be so many leadership gems and nuggets of wisdom that I believe as you apply them to your life will set you up to see the extraordinary purpose take place. So Colin, massive welcome. Uncle, how's it going? Are you well?
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. First time I've been introduced on a podcast as a lemon.
As a lemon.
So interesting concept. But you know, what do you do when life gives you lemons?
That's it, you make lemonade. That's exactly it.
Lemonade, yeah. Boom, boom. The old ones are always the best.
So listen, obviously a lot of our viewers will never have heard of you. Bit different to our usual kind of interviewee. But tell us a little bit about your story, Colin, how you ended up in the UK, how your journey took you there, a little bit of your background, and how you ultimately ended up starting this company, Sapphire Solutions.
I guess where do we go? I'm getting older, I'm getting greyer. I was 55 2 weeks ago. So life tracks on. My story is a very simple story, Jamie. And I think I said before, there's no great master plan in life, you know. My dad, my father, he was a great guy, very, very different to me in many ways in his career and the path that he took. And I think you need to go back to there a little bit to understand how we got to where we got to, because I really think your roots grow from where you've come from, and different people have got different depths of roots, but we all have something that forms and makes us the people we are today. So my mother died when I was very young, and left myself and my three sisters and my father. And my father, you can imagine, we lived on the border of Northern Ireland, which back in the late 70s, early 70s was quite a difficult place to be. We lived in a place called Newtown Clog, just outside Jonesborough. My dad being a Scottish guy, been on the border with four young children, you know, I think from like eight down to one, something like that, range of ages. So my dad eventually moved this south to Carlow, and hence, I guess, your background being in Carlow. But my dad was a very well-educated man. He had worked in mechanical engineering. He worked for a number of organizations. So he's a professional man, and I guess always an expectation as being the only son. You won't know what that's like with your three brothers, but being the only son, I guess, there's always this expectation that Colin would probably follow a similar path. But I guess I wasn't the most academic of people. I didn't suit well into a box. I always liked to be out and about and doing things. So when I was quite a young age, I go back to when I was 11, 12, I was more interested in, getting out and trying to cut grass, wash cars, work at a building site the weekend to make a couple of quid. Nothing really entrepreneurial. I just wanted to be working with my hands, and I just wanted to be doing stuff. And I came home from school, and the Cork to Dublin pipeline, which none of your listeners or viewers will probably know anything about. This is right back in the very, very early 80s, 1980, was ongoing. And I got a chance to go and work on a summer job on the Cork-Dublin pipeline, something this country, Ireland, had never seen before, a major transmission welded steel gas pipe, one of the very first ones done in Ireland. And I worked, and that was very strange because people come from all over Europe, and I did all over the world to work on that pipeline. And I was out there earning really good money as a 14-year-old, 15-year-old. And when I came out at the end of the summer, went back to school, and I remember going into class and thinking, what am I doing sat here? This is just not me. And I look back now, I don't know how my father managed this. I basically got up and walked out. First morning back, 10 o'clock in the morning, I got up and walked out. And it was around, just going on 16. Just going on 16. And just turned 16. So I had gone back in, always remember an argument with a teacher who told me to take my jacket off. And my jacket just happened to be one of these, for those who used to be long, can remember, a Wrangler denim jacket, and had it on, take it off. And I thought, who are you to tell me what to do? Hang on, I've been working all summer, doing all these things, rolling with the big boys, as they say. And I left, and I went home, and I said to my dad, I've had enough, I'm going to England. And what are you doing? And there was 3 or 4 hours of intense debate, tears, anger. But my dad was brilliant. And I always remember in our house, your nana's house, as you would know now, when you go back to it, the stairs go up 3 steps, then they turn right, then they go up another 6 or 7 steps and turn right again. So I always remember sat on that landing 3 steps up with my dad. He had accepted that I couldn't be held back, that I was determined I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And he gave me a piece of advice. He gave me a piece of advice that stuck with me my whole life. And his advice was actually very simple. I'll paraphrase the wordings, but it was along the lines, whatever you do, do your best. If you dig a ditch, dig the straightest and deepest ditch. If you sweep a road, sweep the cleanest and best road. Whatever you do, do the best of your own ability and leave nothing on the table. Leave nothing behind. And I had made arrangements that night to go to England. I was getting picked up, I think it's something like 8 o'clock, to catch the night boat to Liverpool from Dublin, North Wall. And I got picked up and I left. And as I left, I pulled the door behind me. Didn't mean to, but I probably pulled it a bit too hard with emotion, everything. The panes of glass in the store shattered. So my dad, God rest his soul, used to always say to me, you left your mark when you left this house. And I went to England, and I got to.
And again, just people grasp this, because you're fed up to tell your own story like we all are, but you were 16. So you basically walked out of school, secondary school, 16, and decided that whatever your future is going to be in your own hands. With the advice you're given, do the best you can, and very bravely and very courageously, actually, set sail for the UK. It's quite amazing.
Very stupidly, I would say. Very stupidly. I ended up coming to England. I had a piece of paper that said Liverpool, Stoke-on-Trent, Derby, and a phone number for some people in Derby to get a job. And I did that. And forgive me if I rattle on too fast, pull me back, stop me anytime you want. Cut long story short, got a job working in Derby with a company called McLaughlin Pipelines. A great family company, great people, a lot of time for them. And I worked with them for 19 years. But when I came over here working, within a week, I ended up in a terraced house, living in the red light area of Derby called Rose Hill Street. In this house was I guess what you'd now call a multi-occupancy building. Wasn't so much, they were just rooms you rented. And I remember 3-4 nights in thinking, oh my God, what have I done? Yeah. I'd left my father's modern executive, my dad did well for himself. I left his modern executive home with all the comforts that you could want in those days. And I'd ended up, thinking I'm sharing a kitchen that's far from clean. I'm in a bedroom and God knows who slept in it before me. There's no sitting room, no washing machine, etc., etc., etc. But something, I'm a thick, stubborn sort of person. And I knew then I could not go back until I could look my dad in the eye and say, Dad, I've done all right. I've done okay. Yeah. So I went out and I was, I guess, your old school navvy. I went out literally working on the gangs, digging up the roads, putting water pipes in up and down different towns in England, all working for the one company. I was lucky that I had security with the people I worked for. So in their own way, they kept an eye out for you, but you were your own man and you had to do your own thing. I had a passion for machinery and I really wanted to be a JCB driver. I really wanted to be a JCB driver. I always wanted to do that, and I ended up, doing tea boy, making tea. Them days, we all used to have steaks and chops and everything in the mornings. My job was to go and cook the breakfast. The guys go out and work in the gangs. And I worked my way through, got an opportunity then to, drive a machinery, then got an opportunity to be a foreman, and then an opportunity to be a site manager. And I just kept pushing the boundary. I was never happy. I was never content. I was never unhappy, but I always wanted, that's not good enough. What else can I have? If I had £10, I wanted £20. If I had one job, I wanted my boss's job. And I was lucky that I worked with great people who give me a chance. I got a few clips around the ear. I got a few kicks in the behind when I went things wrong. I got the odd clap in the back. And I ended up basically working for this company. The company was sold, and I had an opportunity to go and do something else, but I decided to stick with it. And I was in that company for 19 years. At the end of 19 years, I had a reasonably senior position in that company. I was contracts manager, looking after all the water contracts across the Midlands. Now, bearing in mind, all these people I was working with, I was a generation below them. Yeah. So I'd gone over there very young, worked with these foremen, worked with these site managers. Their lives sort of kept going on, but I jumped over them or crawled my way over them. So I had to find a way of working with much more experienced, much more hardworking people than I, and find a way of getting them to learn from them and getting on board with what I needed and what I wanted. So that worked well. Unfortunately, the people that McLaughlin sold out to weren't great business owners, and the company eventually went into receivership. And I left which was a really difficult thing, and I'll tell you the story now. I worked in this company for 19 years, and all I ever knew was that company. And I remember coming home, getting a phone call one day, and I won't say any names on the phone, but from my old boss to say, Colin, where are you? I'm out in Nottingham. You need to come in. I need to see you. And, he was pale in the face and said, look, the administrators are coming in tomorrow. And I go, what? Where'd this come from? And coming home, and I always remember I had 2 young children at the time, and Shatara, my stepdaughter, who was a bit older, was staying with us for that week. And she was home. We're all going out for dinner that night. And I came home, and I remember going to the fridge and getting one of these really small bottles of French beer, going down the back of our garden with one of these old rustic swings and sitting on it, and tears in my eyes thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? Everything I've known, everything I've worked for, all of my parameters that I've worked within are gone. And how am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to feed my kids? I'm not good enough to work anywhere else. And I had 10 or 15 minutes of sitting there feeling sorry for myself. I finished a bottle of beer. I stood up. I gave myself a bit of a shake. I guess I patted down. We us men don't have watery eyes, but patted down the edge of the eyes. Went in and said, right, I'm going for a shower. We're going out for dinner. And just with determination that life had to go on. And it wasn't about what had happened in the past. Don't focus on what you can't do. Focus on what you can do. And went, and then, cut long story short, went to another organisation who headhunted me to give me a chance. They were taking over some of McLaughlin's old contracts, and I got a job with them. So 3 months later,
by the way, just before you continue, just again put it in perspective. So obviously, you said you left Ireland, you're 16. You said just celebrated 50, was it? 50? How old are you?
55.
55. So that's the guts of 35 years ago that you went to Derby.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're still there. As we're going to hear in a moment, there is a happy ending. But to be 19 years in, to have committed your life to something and then basically watch it by no fault of your own, but bad leadership choice, which is what we're going to talk about today, crumble around you. I mean, that can be quite devastating. And then obviously responsibility, like you mentioned, of kids and a stepdaughter as well. So I think a lot of people, when they see the kind of American dream, as it's called, off in the boat to America and it's all easy and dandy, people don't understand that there's many testing lessons and times of heartbreak and times where like yourself, you're stripped back to square one almost. And I love just what you said there about how no point in looking back, and there's nothing there. You look forward, and you take some steps, and you take back some control, and you use the word determination, which I think in our world right now, it's at least the Western world, one of the biggest problems that young men face with, in particular, is mental health. And I think just that sense of determination, that sense of belief, that sense of backing yourself, I think it's so fundamental. I think your story is a great example of that as you look at what happens next. So anyway, Continue. So after that, you get headhunted.
Go to this other job, and it's more the same but a different company. And, it was difficult because as difficult as it was for me, it was much harder for the people I referenced a few moments ago who are maybe 15, 20 years older than me, who were at that stage of the career thinking, I'm 50 odd years of age and I've worked for this company for 30 years and it's gone. So I ended up in, it's gone now, the company I work for called PLC, Pipeline Constructors. I ended up working with them, brought a lot of the good people with me into Pipeline Constructors. And this was in September when this happened. So in November, there's a society over here called the Pipeline Industries Guild. It's an industry society, and all the companies that work on pipelines are a member of this guild. And basically, it's a guild that's set up to help with networking, to help with best practice, with innovation, and I guess giving the industry a voice across all of the sectors it works in. Covers onshore, offshore, international, etc., etc. Quite interestingly, here I am now at 55, and I'm now currently chairman of the northern branch of the Pipeline Industry Guild. But in them days, the Pipeline Industry Guild really meant once a year you got to put on a dicky bow and a tie and head off into Nottingham and have one almighty party. That take pipeline guys and put them in a hotel, a posh hotel with lots of free drinks and stand back and walk the car and watch the car.
James Bond.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there was James Bond coming in, God knows the light coming out. The ties were skew whipped, the jackets were gone sideways. But in a long story short, I'm sat in November, I'm sat in this room and it's like 4:00 in the morning. And fair to say, as it say in the Irish Post, a good drink was had by all. And I'm looking, and sat around looking around me, having a pensive moment, and think to myself, my God, this is the room that I used to McLaughlin Pipelines always had for this exact same Pipeline Industry Guild. I'm sat in the same room, surrounded by some of the same people. And I learned then that life goes on. I learned a lesson that day, that the things that you think are important actually aren't that important. And we'll come back to that now. I think we're realizing some of that now with this whole thing's going on with COVID. The things you thought were really important. I thought, here's me thinking I'd never have the life I had after the 19 years working with this other company back, and I have it here now again. So to cut a long story short, I stayed in industry, continued to learn my trade. I spent endless hours up and down the motorways, highways and byways, back roads of the United Kingdom. I ended up running contracts from the north of Scotland right down to the very south of England. And I spent my whole life, out of the house 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning, back 10, 11 o'clock at night and away again the next day, missing my family growing up, one of my biggest regrets. I've got a wonderful wife who holds our family together. She's just a foundation for everything that we do. And she allows me to be probably the selfish person in a way that I am now, that I can go and do the stuff that I do. I then moved from that company I was in. I got an opportunity to take an equity stake. I was actually gifted an equity stake, a very small equity stake in a smallish company owned by a namesake of mine for a venture capitalist-backed organisation up in Yorkshire. And I went to work for them. And actually, then a company called Balfour Beatty came in to buy them. Yeah. So I did whatever it was, 2 years in there. We had a 5-year plan to grow and sell the business, and the business was sold inside a year and a half. Nothing to do with me. I was just, I guess, a worker bee in that whole thing. But I learned a lot in seeing how you can grow a business, how you can put, a lot of depth and sophistication into it, and then how you can give it a value. So Balfour Beatty, for those who don't know them, Google them, really big international business, great organisation, came in and bought the company I worked with. Whilst I got some money from the sale, it wasn't enough to go and have a life-changing moment. It put the kids into school, it paid the mortgage off and stuff like that, but still had to work for a living. And I spent 13 years working for Balfour Beatty. I ended up, I guess, eventually as the managing director for their gas and water business, responsible for contracts all over the UK, the contracts in Ireland. I was one of the team. We set up the contract, we 10-year contract for Bord Gas, delivering all the distribution gas networks stuff in Ireland. We had contracts in Europe, North America, Australia, and I seemed to spend my whole life literally always in a suitcase in the boot of my car, always had my passport with me. Some people, their partners ring up and say, "What time are you home for dinner tonight?" I get a call, "Are you back tonight?" And sometimes, "What country are you in tonight?" Yeah, what country tonight? But I learned so much. I worked with great people, and you went into it was a very corporate world there. I'm not a corporate person. I had to learn how to be corporate. But what I really learned in there was that you get out what you put in. It's quite interesting to speak to my own son and love him to bits. And he's a great lad, a really great guy. But when I see him and his friends who are around, he's 22 now, 23 next week, there's always this few that you see what's going on now with social media influencers and all that, and they almost feel that there's this fast track to wealth. And quite interesting, there's not. You get out what you put in, and you can still put everything in, but not be lucky enough to get the break, to get the stuff out.
Yeah.
So, success, if it comes to you, has a lot of luck, a lot of sheer will and determination, and a good dose of planning in it. And people sort of need to get their head around that. And I was lucky, I got that. When I look at what we did in our time with Balfour Beatty, I generally learned so much out of it. They give me a really good life. I earned a really good salary with them. I got good bonuses with them. I got to meet some great people. I learned how to do business. I learned very many times how not to do business as well. But it came to a situation where in 2014, I had this job, as I said earlier, as managing director of a business of, I can't remember, 350, 400 people, another 1,000 subcontractors in it, working nationally and internationally. Myself and Michael, a really good friend of mine, we had some holiday properties abroad. We had some restaurants. We had a restaurant, as you know, in Bulgaria that I think you visited on more than one occasion. So we were doing okay, but we had a small supermarket up at Preston. They were what I call lifestyle businesses, but they were always about create something, grow it, then move it on. That was our opportunity. Came to a situation where the market was changing. We went through the recession 2008, 2010. That period specifically in the UK was very bad. I wanted to do different things with the business. My bosses in Balfour wanted to do something different. I could see the sense about what they wanted to do, but it was clear that I wasn't the right person to do that for them. I think they probably seen the sense of what I wanted to do and recognized that they weren't the right people to do it with me. And we had a conversation that was, I guess, one of those ones, we're not aligned. Yeah. And again, I remember going to London for a meeting, and I guess I misread it, didn't expect the conversation to go the way it went. To which I said, well, look, it's clear that it's probably time that we need to have a parting of the ways. And so, as I say in football terms, by mutual agreement, we decided to terminate. I wasn't right for what they wanted. They clearly weren't right for what I wanted. I wanted to do something different.
What do you think, just interject, why do you think the alignment thing is so important? I imagine there's a lot of people watching, listening, who might be in a similar scenario. Why was that so important?
Because you cannot do what you don't believe in.
Very good.
Yeah, you can't do. You can do it for a while. I always say people leak. Yeah, so somebody can go into, we're in some middle of some really big contract negotiations at the moment, and you can go into a couple of contract negotiation meetings, last 3-4 hours, sometimes a whole day, and you can go in with a little bit of facade to you. Yeah, but over time, the real person leaks. Whether it's in the body language, whether it's in the tone of your voice, whether it's what you say, or more importantly, how you act. So if you don't fundamentally believe in something, yeah, you can't deliver it. Now, you can compromise. That's okay. You and I could have a debate about something, and we could say at the end of it, I'm not fully aligned with you, but for the greater good, I'm going to get on message with you, because life's about compromise. You give a bit, you take a bit. Not everybody's got the monopoly being right. And the bit with myself and Balfour Beatty was, we weren't aligned. They certainly weren't aligned with what I wanted to do. I wasn't aligned with what they wanted to do. They had to make decisions that was right for them in their business, which I fully respected. And I had to do what was right for me. So coming back.
Before you come back to this, what I'm saying, because, I mean, again, just put it in context, because it is an amazing story. I mean, you leave Ireland, you're 16, you walked out of school, you got, like I said, a ticket to Derby, 35 odd years later, you're still there. You've had some setbacks, some things that didn't go according to plan. Here you are now, on top of the food chain, settled, well paid, comfortable. Most people at this point are going, screw alignment. I'm happy. I'm good. Considering where I've come from, I'm going to stay where I am and just nurse this nest egg until retirement. Very few people do. This is something I think all great entrepreneurs do and great leaders do, is stay true to themselves. Like you said, their core beliefs, and say, yeah, I could do that and that would be good on one level, but there's something in me that is driving me towards another direction, driving me for more. And, as we get on to the kind of final segment of the story here, as you're going to tell it, like what's happening now wouldn't have been possible if that wasn't the case. And I wonder if, that's not everybody, but maybe some people have adopted the, what's the expression, the company man mentality, when inwardly they're experiencing exactly what you're describing, that sense of tension, because they know that should be or could be doing something else. And I think that's worth exploring. It's risky. It's always risky. And like you said, good planning, determination, a little bit of things going your way can open some doors. There's a life lesson in that there.
No, if I had guessed being a bit more corporate, a little bit less passionate, a little bit less vocal, a little bit less strong, could I have batted my days out in Balfour Beatty? Yeah, I probably could have done. Yeah. But let's be clear, they wanted something different as well. So for every marriage to work, for everybody to go on a dance floor and dance a good tango, you need two partners that want to dance a tango.
You know what tango? You dance tango.
Yeah, but I got the figure for it, mate. That's when I sat down. You can't see it. But you know what I'm saying? So they wanted something different. I wanted something different. Yes, I could have done that. No doubt, I could have done that. But look, it's not me.
I'm just drawing a point. It's a great observation.
Jim, I've always got this view in life. I've always got this very, very, very simple view in life is live life for today. Yeah, I always know if things went really bad. Yeah, I'll go back tomorrow driving a JCB. I'll go laying gas pipes or water pipes. Wouldn't bother me. There's lots of really good.
Have you you probably haven't seen, but Jerry McClarkson on his
farm,
Instagram, yeah, that's basically what he's doing. To travel the world and driving every car you can think of. He's quite content driving around his field, in the Cotswolds. Actually, the tractor he bought, I don't know if you saw this in the newspaper, I read this in the newspaper a couple weeks ago. He bought a Lamborghini tractor.
Yeah.
So he's driving a Lamborghini tractor around his field. It's gas.
Yeah. Well, you do realise that's what Lamborghini were famous for before cars.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he said. Yeah. Hilarious.
Well,
Okay, so Sapphire. So what happens next?
So you come back now. So when I left that time, when I left Balfour, I said, you know something, I'm going to step back from the rat race. I'm going to semi-retire. I have other things I want to do. I headed off to Marbella and I bought a property in Marbella, as you know. Had a couple of places ready in Bulgaria, but I thought I wanted something closer that was easier to get to. Went over there, got this place. Myself and Haley went over and we spent a bit of time getting it kitted out, getting it done, all the stuff. And then I was walking around. I'm used to getting, my phone going all hours a day and night. I had contracts all over the world, and all of a sudden your phone goes silent overnight. When you come out in the corporate world, your phone, it's almost like you haven't charged your phone. I was used to getting 150, 160 emails a day. All of a sudden, I'm getting no emails, or I'm getting junk emails on my personal account. And I sat one night in the garden in Marbella, and Haley says, you're struggling a bit, aren't you? And I said, yeah. I says, I need to do something. I didn't want to go back into contracting. See, you said a couple of times today, entrepreneurial. I am not entrepreneurial. I am generally not. My business partner is very entrepreneurial. I'd like to come on to that in a moment. I am not entrepreneurial. I would class myself as a good general manager that knows how to make things done, that can get things happen. But I'm not your entrepreneur. I am not the Alan Sugar going out into the marketplace, starting off as a market trader. That's not me. It's not what I do. But I know that. So I had a couple of things I wanted to do. I had a passion for innovation. I had been working on the All Parliamentary working group for water, and I thought there's stuff here we could do around innovation. Got a passion for innovation, but when I looked at it, I couldn't properly commercialize it the way I wanted to do it. And I felt, well, I'll end up getting a good living out of it. I'll pull $200,000 a year out of it, but it won't give me the satisfaction that I want. Michael, my business partner, who's much more entrepreneurial than I am, had probably 6 months previously came up with the idea to set up Sapphire Utilities Solutions, what was then Sapphire Drainage Solutions. So Michael had set the company up. He had started trading it. But Michael, like all true entrepreneurs, isn't somebody to deal with the, okay, I've started this now, the shine's gone off it. Bloody hell, there's boring stuff to do. We've got to get accountants in, we've got to get this in, we've got to get that in, we've got to get accreditation in place, we've got all the other stuff we need to do. We need a growth plan, we need a business plan to do all the
dreaded 7-letter word. Process. We need process.
Exactly. But ultimately important to removing waste in a large business. So anyhow, Michael and I had a conversation, and anyhow, cut long story short, we already had other business interests together, and he said, look, why don't you come in to Sapphire and get involved? So I said, I don't really want to go back contracting, I played for a Premiership club in Balfour. I don't want to go down the league. I guess in Formula One terms, when Vettel driving Ferrari, there's really going to go and drive for the Haas team.
Yeah, unless you're Kimi Räikkönen, which he seems very happy. He seems more happy driving for AlphaTauri than he did for Ferrari. But anyway,
but as long as vodka's involved, Kimi's all right.
Kimi Räikkönen, yeah.
Cold vodka's all right. But yeah, that's different people, isn't it? So we went in and we did a bit of work consulting in Sapphire for a few weeks, few months. Anyway, cut long story short, we went into Sapphire. And into Sapphire, we was very young, was very small. And I said, right, we'll do this, but we're going to do this. I'm not interested in lifestyle business. We've got to drive this, And Mike said, yeah, we're really up for that. So I guess what we had there was the combination of the two of us. Coming together with complementary strengths and weaknesses. So where Michael is really, really good at something, I might be quite so good, and vice versa. We have a great relationship. We're very, very different. I don't think Michael would be embarrassed with it. Michael's really outgoing. Yeah. Michael wants to have the bling watch and the big car, but he's so driven, and that's his measure of success. I'm slightly different. There's no right or wrong in it. We're just two very, very different people. But we bring out the best of each other. Sometimes we bring out the worst of each other. Sometimes we have some almighty arguments.
Kind of all good teams, eh?
Yeah, the idea for Sapphire Utility Solutions came at 3:00 in the morning in a piano bar in Burgas in Bulgaria. But it's probably fair to say that we drank probably between us a couple of bottles of Johnny Walker Black Label and gin. He went to Black Label, me and the gin, and got with this idea to go and do it. And so, right, you go and get the business up and running, and I'll stay employed here, and we'll see what happens. So we had a I remember Michael's wife saying to two of his guys, this is great, but don't let business ruin your friendship.
Yeah.
And again, another piece of wise advice that we got. So we set up Sapphire Utility Solutions. I came in, we rebranded it to Sapphire Utility Solutions because we were a very small subcontractor based in the northwest of England, cleaning sewers. We felt that the market was wider. We wanted to bring what I would think main contract and tier one thinking into this lean, mean, efficient subcontracting organization. And we literally hunkered down and we worked our asses off, literally around the clock, sat in a little tiny office, Michael's desk and my desk, button up against each other, but one had to pull a chair in for one person to get out of the room. And we work really hard. And our business model at the moment, if I summarize where we are now, then backtrack it. Our current business model is we have over 550 employees. We've probably over 100 subcontractors. We're turning over probably about 50 million a year now. And this is all just in less than 7 years. We are tier one contractors working up and down the breadth and the width and breadth of the UK. We work predominantly in a world of business to business relationships. We're not really doing any end consumer selling. We work for the majority of the large water companies. So in the UK, the water companies are all privatized. There's 10 large water and wastewater companies. And we work for them. And we're out there doing all customer facing stuff. So if you got blocked drains, you got a broken water pipe, you got something else wrong, chances are some of our people turn up with our equipment. Our equipment is really expensive. One of our big lorries completely kitted out with cameras and all that is over 430,000 euros. So,
which, just to put some context on this for our viewers and listeners, you cannot prepare yourself for the experience of walking around the yard and seeing some of this kit. When I was there, I think it was 2 summers ago with you, walked around the yard and thinking, okay, it's a bunch of lorries that pump sewage. How is this going to be exciting? But actually, some incredibly sophisticated, technologically, like you said, innovative pieces of apparatus there. And I love the care and the passion in, you go back to that bit of advice you got on the stairs all those years ago, to see that in action with, remember that day you were quite upset because the trucks weren't clean. Look dirty. You're making the point, well, if we don't present ourselves in a way, we're already dealing with waste, we got to present ourselves, the brand and the kind of, what would you call it? And the visual need to be aligned, which I thought was brilliant. So great congruence of what you're saying.
Standard has to cut across everything that you do. Yeah. Exactly. So if our workforce, and we've got a great workforce by the way, but if our workforce come into our depots and our yards in the morning and it's a mess and there's no organization, there's no order to it, that sets them a standard. And first thing in the morning, these guys don't care about safety, they don't care about cleanliness, they don't care about how they come across. That's the behaviour they take out then onto the sites. Whether we've got some sites, like at the moment we're in the middle of Manchester, one of the biggest cities in England, and we're doing some really high profile work, okay, not so many now because of lockdown, but in the peak time there could be 300,000 people walk past that site every day, never mind how many people drive past it. It's highly visual out there. And if you don't set that standard of people look at it and go, wow, they've got pride in what they do, then, if people see you're untidy, you're messy, your uniforms are dirty, your equipment is dirty, stuff is strewn about the place, it's not clean and tidy, then we'll say, well, actually, are these the people we want to work? What are they going to do with my assets? What are they going to do with the service that they provide? And that standard is really, really important. Setting that standard for people is critical. One of the things that's setting our organisation up, we've got a simple thing. It sounds a bit corporate. It might come across a bit like David Brent for a moment from the office. Forgive me, Dave. But we talk about 5 things. It's called SEED: safe, excellent, efficient delivery, and then in our chosen markets. So what do we mean by that? Well,
so just say it again slowly so everyone can get that.
Safe, excellent, efficient delivery, and then our chosen markets. I actually have here, bear with me, I'm going to reach over the camera.
There we go.
I had a book.
Yeah, I have one like that.
That's not product placement. That generally is on my desk because this drives everything that we do, as an organisation.
Clarity.
All that is a very simple business plan that we create. This is an internal document, it's not a sales document. And it just tells our people what we mean. What do we mean by being excellent? It just says there, we want to be recognised as a service leading brand in our sector. So we don't put in things like, we want to be the best and all this. We want people to say they're the best. They're good at what they do. Yeah. And we still talk about safety. We say, we want to be recognised for unparalleled safety performance. Mm-hmm. We want people to know. We say, we want everyone to know in our business you're empowered to stop if it doesn't feel right. If it doesn't feel right, chances are not right. In our industry, people die. It's, we're down 15 to 20 meters down a shaft full of gas and everything else. Yeah. If that's not, your parents come from the military background and preparation going into these dangerous places is what it's all about. It's like the fire brigade. So if you got that lackadaisical attitude, then you don't get what you need out of it. So we try to drive innovation. We try to drive that real focus on, being safe, being excellent in everything you do, be efficient, not cheap, efficient. But someone did say, why don't I just put cheap in there? Because I don't want to be cheapest. I don't want to win a contract because we're the cheapest. I want to win a contract because people recognize they're so good, we're prepared to pay them the right price. And then the last bit on delivery, we want to do what's right. If we tell you we're going to do something, we do it. Yeah, we don't have to do it, then disappear and come back. So we're trying to build a business that's simple and easy and a tried and true, proven format. It's working for us because we're going through great growth. In our first year, we turned over 3 million. In our second year, we turned over 8.4 million, which, unparalleled levels of growth. On our third year, we turned over 12.4. On our fourth year, we turned over 17. On our fifth year, 22. And our 6th year, 44 million. So against that, you got growth in graphs and growth in turnover, we've got pounds, numbers of employees. I think we've moved offices and depots 4 or 5 times. We're actually supposed to doing it again.
And this, again, just putting context, this is from a fella who walked out of school at 16 because a teacher told him to take off his denim jacket.
Yeah, but it's not me. It's. I'm surrounded by.
Yeah, okay.
I got great business partners.
Love the humility, of course.
No, it's not. But quite genuinely, but it is true. It's not. I've got great business partners. We got another chap in our business, investor, who's not involved in day to run the business, who's a good friend of ours. So a great business partner, Michael. We've surrounded ourselves with a great delivery team. We've got some great people. Going through COVID, I'm diabetic, and last year I had some stuff done with my heart, so I'm trying to social distance a bit up and down there a few times, but I'm pretty much working from my office here at home. Our business, we're growing our business through COVID. As we speak, our turn is up over 10% in the last 8-9 weeks. We're currently in negotiations with 2 clients for some really major contracts. We've already booked this year 20 million of growth for this year already, without what we're doing now. So it's a massive team effort. It's all about our people. It is all about our people. We can buy as many kits, as many trucks, as many pieces of plant as we want, but without good people to take them, use them and utilize them and sit in the yard and gather dust. That's what happens. And a big focus for us as a business now is about open leadership. It's about visible leadership, about trying to do things right. We put a lot of effort in now through this whole COVID period and trying to communicate with the workforce. So we're sending out weekly bulletins to everybody. The beginning was all about, what was happening with COVID, what it meant to them, and how we could support them and their families. It's moving now more and more as to how we help people with their mental health, how we help people with, with a lot of stuff. We got a lot of, as you know, we probably got a predominantly male workforce, got a number of ladies in there, but not as many as we'd like. So some of the stuff we're doing now is trying to put stuff in place where our workforce can go home when they're not at work, and the majority of our workforce are still working because they're classed in the UK here as critical workers. We got drawing competitions, we got art competitions, where we're running them every week. We're encouraging people to send their kiddies pictures, photographs, statues, plasticine, then whatever they're doing, send it in, and then we're awarding and sending the children out.
It's definitely something that stood out to me. Talking to you over the years and even visiting the company there, is one area I think you guys definitely stand out is that sense of value you have for your team. We spoke a few weeks ago on the phone, and you were telling me about a scenario where some people had, I think, left your company just before COVID, had to go to other companies, but then the other company wouldn't take them, and you decided to keep paying them anyway. And I asked you, why would you do that? And you said, well, it was right. Talk about that for a second. Why is that right?
I'm not sure I want to talk about that, to be honest. That was, look, you surface would pick it up. It was an easy decision for us to do. Yeah. People had left, their career, accept that, no problem with that. What did Richard Branson say? Recruit people and develop an element where, they never want to leave. But people do want to leave because sometimes they hit glass ceilings and they got to go on and then come back. It was the right thing to do. Some people found themselves between jobs. There was a cut-off for the furlough rules, which meant they hadn't started, they weren't in the payroll for, I think it was 29th of March. They were still in our payroll at the time. We could have turned around. I know lots of people did and said, no, we're that's not our problem anymore. It was the right thing to do. It was, to be honest, an easy decision to make as well, because it was a government-backed scheme, so they want to try and reach out. But I just think sometimes in life, you've got to do what's right. And sometimes what's right is not always what's easy.
That's good.
Yeah. And very often it is, because you just get a different reward. You might cost you a couple of quid, but you get a lot more satisfaction, you get a lot more loyalty, you get a lot more recognition for doing it. But it's sometimes you get rewarded in different ways. But very often you just got it. You get a reputation for what you stand for. And if you look people about, and the industry is a small world, the UK is bigger than Ireland, but it's not America. Yeah. You can only make so many enemies in it. And if as a person you do the right thing and you treat people right, generally I'm a great believer it comes back around again. Yeah. I had a call today from someone, and this someone doesn't really owe me any favors. No big relationship there. I've helped them out in the past with a couple of things that are very, very simple, and said, I think you ought to know this, and there might be an opportunity over there for you. Oh, right, Sam. Well, thanks for that. I'll go and pick that up, and I'm going to call schedule someone tonight. But that is just someone, it's a bit like the coffee payback, isn't it? Just go back and
you reap what you sow.
You reap. I'm a great believer in that. And I think in life, if you think like that the whole time, and generally everything you do, you'll always get the upside out of it. But it's the right thing to do. And I think in life, I've seen it when I was in a PLC, and there's nothing against any big PLCs. But what they do is they remove the ability for people to do the right thing, because you have to work within constructs, you have to work within limitations of approval. You can't do the right thing. Mm-hmm. In our organisation, maybe it's easier now because we own it. We can do the right thing. Yeah. We try and do the right thing properly. Sometimes we get it wrong, but we can do the right thing. And doing the right thing, I think, is fundamentally
it's incredibly valuable, as so many businesses now have what they're calling the double bottom line of not just making money, but in terms of sense of satisfaction and making the world a better place. I remember hearing an interview with the guy who heads up Home Depot in the US, and the guy that heads up the Ritz-Carlton, and they actually created a bursary fund for employees, like a discretionary fund, I think up to $1,000, where if a customer came in and needed something, but you said the parameters didn't allow it, they could basically take responsibility, show some tact, and then go about solving the customer's problem because it was the right thing to do. And they would be allowed to spend up to $1,000, which was quite amazing. So it's just great to see more examples of that, because like you said, I said on the phone, a lot of people won't do that because they're not thinking about that, which, is quite unfortunate. And obviously they reap what they sow eventually.
Yeah, there's a company in the UK, and I can't think of the guy's name, forgive me, I actually admire him a lot. It's a company called Timson Shoes. I don't know if they're in Ireland or not, but basically, if you're ever in the UK and you go into any of the big supermarkets, there's normally like a little place on the outside, and they do shoe repairs and cut keys. So it's one of these businesses, high volume, low value, So, but everybody, the 2,500 people ever work in the company, I'm not quite sure the numbers, but I heard a great interview by the owner, it's privately owned. All of his employees are empowered. So if you went in to get your shoes done, as an example, and you weren't happy, they could just try and say, Jamie, don't worry, mate. Right, grand. Look, it's for free. Take it away.
Wow.
Yeah. They don't have to fill out 55 forms and go up the ladder to get proposed. You don't have to go to the customer care department to contact you.
Mm-hmm.
And we try to focus on that as an organisation, about getting that empowerment to that front line. There's something I'd like to talk about for a second, actually, just because I'm conscious of run out of time. But there is something that is very important, I believe, in Sapphire. And my people tell me it's important. Sorry, my colleagues tell me it's important, and they feed back to me that it's important. Just over 5 years ago, we lost, your cousin, Shakara, to suicide. Yeah. And for those that won't know me, therefore won't know Shakara, Shakara's my stepdaughter, an absolutely beautiful but complex, full of life, bubbly, blonde girl. Yeah. From the outside, looked like she had no problems, but, she had her own challenges. She was bipolar. But, she was living in the Cayman Islands, living a life that to most people would say, God, this is a good place to be, living in the sun, blah, 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 blah. And Shakara, without in details, took her own life, which was difficult for us as a family. But, it is what it is, and we've had to find a way of dealing with that and still dealing with that as we go through. But over the last couple of years, one of the things that's become, I've been trying more and more and more and more to do is to put this reach out, say, now that I've got this limited level of ability to influence, what can we do? What can I do? What can we do to support people who are struggling with mental health? And it feels a little bit at the moment that I'm almost starting to go off a little bit, because everyone's jumping on the bandwagon at the moment with the whole thing about mental health. But I think it's really important. Last year, we lost 2 friends, colleagues in our business to suicide. Now, 2 people in a company of, at the time, less than 500 people. One of them was one of the guys, and I won't say his name here, wouldn't be fair, who was really well known to myself and Michael. He'd been to Bulgaria with us. He'd worked for us a long time. We've been out drinking together and all that. They meet in the happiest, go-luckiest guy you'd ever meet. On one Thursday night last September, took his own life. In December, just before Christmas, it'll always stick with me this, it really, things were going pretty well for us as a business. It was Christmas, and I decided to treat myself, as you know, to a new car. And I went down, I think whatever was the 19th to 20th of December, to Stafford to pick it up from the main dealers there. And I was getting this walk around this new car and how it all works and everything like that. I'm just saying, look, I've had one before, just give me the keys and let me out of here. And my phone keeps ringing, And I thought, I was going to stop. We walked outside, spoke to our ops director, what's the story? He says, again, I won't mention his name, but let's just made up names for now. Joe has been found dead this morning. He's committed suicide. And I'm going, holy Moses. Yeah. How can this be? And I had as my role as chairman of the Northern Guild pipeline industry, every year we hold a big dinner, and that raises a lot of money. And the chairman gets to pick the charity. I had picked CAM, which is a campaign against living miserably, as the charity, and I really pushed it out there to try and raise money, and to try within our industry, which is a very male macho industry, to get people to understand and recognise that people, and not always as you think, are struggling and need help and need support. And I did a number of talks around a number of events across the north of England, more predominantly with the contracting and the utility community, to really get this on everyone's agenda. And we, as Sapphire, said, look, we got to lead the way in this. And this is not about the big campaigns and doing all these things. There's a limit to what you can do. We're not a charity. We're not a religion. We're a commercial organisation, but there are things we can do. So we laid out, so what is it we need to do? So we laid out a strategy. And that strategy was going to be very, very simple. Was we were going to equip everyone that worked for Sapphire to be able to recognise when somebody might need help.
Wow.
So we were going to take them through a short, I won't call it training session, but a scenario. We bring people in, and there was 3 pieces. Number one, recognise when someone might need a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, Colin, are you okay today? You look a bit down, or is everything all right? What's in the back of your mind, etc. Just to recognise what behaviours, what will tell signals that might see.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 was then the second piece we're going to do was we're going to equip everybody in our business at the same time to be able to know what question to ask. Yeah, how do you open up that conversation? Yeah, what is the best way to get someone to say, Colin, are you okay today, mate? Yeah, I'm all right. Are you sure? But, equip them with that. So we partnered up with some organisations to do that. Then the third thing we're going to do is, I said, I wanted in 2020 for 1 in every 10 people to be a mental health first aider, to go through a full 3-day registered course as a mental health first aider. And then by the summer of 2021, I wanted 1 in 5 to be a mental health first aider. So basically, you're never any more than 5 to 10 people away in your community from someone that can at least say, look, you need to go and talk to this one. We put a lot of the stuff you'd expect to see in place with the support lines and with the health insured type organisations with phone number for debt, counselling, marriage guidance, and all that stuff. Now, clearly those plans got sidetracked because of COVID.
Yeah.
Literally, first week of lockdown was when the first courses were meant to happen. So we're about to relaunch them now as virtual type courses to do that. Because it's quite interesting, this whole thing, at the moment, a lot of people really struggling with the mental health piece of it. So we're pushing on with this. On Saturday, I got an email. Now, last week, I don't know about Ireland, but in the UK, was Mental Health Week last week. And if people get a chance, go and look on our LinkedIn or look on our Facebook. They'll see we've tried to do some quite innovative stuff where we communicate. So we put big TV screens on the side of our lorries. We put messages out there, but we try to do. Some of our workforce put up some really funny videos and things.
Yeah, I've seen some of them. They're hilarious.
Yeah, they're really hilarious. We're trying to get the guys just to take that break. I got an email on Saturday afternoon from another organisation that we work alongside to say that one of the chaps who I know who also comes to work on our jobs committed suicide, left a 4-year-old son behind. Really tragic case. So when you come back to running, growing, managing a business, you go through a curve, and that curve is, my God, have I got enough money in the bank to pay the wages on Friday? Can I pay the VAT bill? Can I buy that new truck? Can I do this? Can I do that? But ultimately, what I've learned over the last 6 years, the importance of not only having the right people and training and equipping them properly, but create an environment for them where you're able to support them through the trials and tribulations of daily life. Because a happy worker is a safe worker, A safe worker is a productive worker. A productive worker is a profitable worker.
Yeah.
They're all linked. They're all linked. And I don't know. I've tried to go through this with a lot of people and talk about it. I've said, look, let's not try and recreate the national health. Let's not try and recreate what CAM and all these other Mind and all of the great organizations are doing. What is it that we can do in trying to break that male macho culture and trying to get people to open up? There's a limit to what you can do to support. So we do try and support people with counselling and drug and alcohol addiction and stuff like that. That's predominantly right through society now.
Yeah.
Now, we've got this thing at the moment. If we do a lot of drug and alcohol testing because the nature of it is really busy. And we've got this very simple thing. We just say to everybody, look, if you've got a problem, tell us and we'll support you. Yeah. But if you don't tell us, I can't support you. And if you don't tell us and something goes wrong, then ultimately, your problem's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we're trying to create a culture where people can actually open up and say, I have a problem. I absolutely have a problem and I need some help. Now, your dad, who some people may know on this call, may not know on this call, someone I respect a lot, has done a lot in counselling. And there are some great people out there from different walks of life who've got the skills and experience. But as a businessman, I feel that our role, and Michael with me feels very strongly as well, is that what we have to try and do is create the right environment. And that right environment, and maybe 10 years ago I wouldn't have said this.
Yeah.
But definitely now in the world we're in, and being here now since God rest her soul, Shakara, we've got to try and do something different to make things work the way better for.
Yeah, we have a saying in our world: people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think a lot of people, when they think about today's call, they don't see us finishing the call talking about your concern as a business owner for your staff's mental health. But actually, that's what it takes to build something healthy and successful. You build healthy people, build healthy things. I think it's a great example for no matter where people are who are watching today. Some people watching today lead voluntary teams. Some people watching today have people who go out and bring food hampers, work with children. There'll be business leaders and owners watching today. But ultimately, what we reap what we sow is a takeaway. Whatever you do it to the best of your ability. No half jobs is a takeaway. There's going to be heartache. There's going to be pushback. There's going to be times of testing, but determination and some planning will take you a long way. And just that sense of ultimately, whatever we're responsible for, to understand the most valuable thing we have in life is people. And last night, my youngest son and I, Isaiah, we watched. The other two brothers were away for a while, so I said, Isaiah, what movie? You can pick the movie you'll not watch together. And he picked the movie Up, which he'd never seen. I don't know if you've seen that movie. It's very touching. But basically, it's the story of this guy who he meets this girl, and it's a cartoon animation. And her dream is to go to South America one day. And so he says he'll take her. He crosses his heart, whatever. But then, they get married and the car breaks down to buy a house. And so it's fast forward to now they're both elderly. She's ill and she's looking through her kind of scrapbook of memories, having never got there. And so he determines to fulfill her dream in her death and get his house from America to South America via balloons. It is a Disney film, people. So
Right,
don't freak out. But when he does that, of course, other characters involved. He gets there. He basically sacrifices this young guy who has no father figure in his life and a dog who has no master just to get his house to this point and to fulfill his promise. But when he gets there, he realized the whole point of the house was the person. That's not the things in life that define us, but it's the influence that we leave in people's lives. I think that's just a huge learning lesson. Look, by the sounds of the conversation, we could go for another hour. Maybe we need to do a part 2 sometime. I'm sure people would love to hear more. I got a whole list of questions, but I want to ask one question so far. So I can definitely wind you up, and you can go.
I did warn you. Look,
That's great. It's fascinating.
One thing I'd like to say though, which
yeah.
just we sit reflecting, is I look at my son, who is a great lad, an absolutely great lad. He's so different to me. Bless him. He's, my daughter's like me, very task focused, quite a hard edge to her. My son, much more creative, much more caring, and much more balanced. about life. And I'd say stuff to me, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this, you need to do that. And he's looking at me and saying, look, Dad, just relax, relax. Some of these things, you have to live them to learn.
Yes.
You can't, if somebody told the young Colin, do this, and this, and you'll get that, and that.
You would have walked out with your denim jacket.
Yeah. And you get to a situation in life. I think I might have said it to you. I think it was you. I was sat here a while back, 3 or 4 weeks back, and you know me. I got a weakness for cars. Yeah, we won't go into it, but I got a weakness for cars. And I'm looking out the driveway, and I think, Jesus, this, and this, and I think I can't get out to drive them.
Yeah,
I'm in lockdown. Yeah, and this is the first time in about 8 weeks where I haven't sat down and thought, I'll change one of my cars. I'll go and buy another car. It's the first time in 8 weeks where I haven't just even sat there and played, or maybe I'd like to get one of them or get one of them. Because I think the last, maybe it's a different conversation, a different day, your priorities change a bit. And I think this last 12 weeks
absolutely
has maybe put everything back in context as to what was
really matters. Yeah.
And what you need to do.
Yeah.
And that's probably the same for business. And, our business planning with some radical changes, because what's clear is, because of the type of organization we are, we were ahead of the curve. So we could see, I was in Thailand in February,
yeah.
Myself and Haley married 25 years this year. And I decided we were going to this year, going to be a year of doing some nice stuff, because I never take time for us. Haley just supports me all the time. So I wanted to treat her and do the whole nice things bit. So luckily I said, we'll do Thailand at the start of the year, at the end of this. We managed to get it in for all this. So it was all sort of unfolding the last week with there. We came back and we could see what was going to happen. So we very quickly moved the plan, say, right, we're going to shut head office down, come up with a plan to increase department. So before the shutdown, we had almost moved to this remote working, which, our operation teams have to be in. We can't go away from that, but accounts, payroll, procurement, et cetera, we shoved back to remote working. Mm-hmm. And we were just, about to sign a lease in a new head office in a new yard, and it's over 150 grand a year. And I'm saying, whoa, do we need that now? Yeah. So, there's no one size fits all model. There's no lesson that teaches everything. It's how you react to these challenges you get, and how you learn from it to take the advantage as well as the disadvantage out of everything. And I just think that's just so important.
That's it. I think it's a great place to land on that little gem of wisdom, as there have been many. Colin, thank you very much. We must get you back on again, because I've got 8 or 9 more questions to ask you. It might take 8 or 9 more podcasts by the looks of things.
Maybe next time we should do it a bit later with a bottle of beer in our hands. I keep looking over my beer fridge. You've got a nice beer fridge to come over there. And I keep looking over thinking, it would be really bad man to look from the screen and go up the bottle of bottle and bring it back and sit down here and have a chat, wouldn't it?
The time this podcast will be aired at 9 p.m, so it's probably an appropriate time.
Now you tell me.
No, honest, thank you. The story's inspirational, and it's amazing to see how far you've come your journey as it inspires other people, And again, I think there's some great nuggets there. Even if you're someone right now who's struggling with mental health and you're watching this or listening to this, by all means, please go on our website, lighthouschurch.ie, click on the next steps button. We actually have an option there that simply says, I want to talk. And we have resource of counsellors and different support services we work with. All it takes is that one click, and we'd love to connect with you. You're not an anomaly. You're not broken. You're not nothing wrong with you. It's human. And you'd be amazed at how much just talking can do. So I want to really strongly encourage, if you're someone that's struggling right now, reach out to us. We'd love to connect with you. Other than that, our time is done. Again, thank you so much, Colin. Good to see you.
If you feel any of those people would benefit with a chat, connect me.
Absolutely. There you go.
Connect. Yeah, Okay. Take care, Jimmy. Love the family.
That's the week's episode, guys. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. We hope you found this content inspiring and helpful. If you'd like to comment or submit a question, simply email us at info@lighthousechurch.ie. That's it for now, but remember, when life gives you lemons, don't get bitter, make lemonade.